Hey guys, and welcome to a new video build guide for Path of Exile. This build guide contains build showcase, content overview, disclaimer, build theory, playstyle, equipment, gems, jewels, flasks, skill tree, Ascendancy, Pantheon, Bandits, honorable mentions, and some gameplay footage. This build destroys the Atlas, is hardcore viable and can run the most extreme map combinations even on tier 16. You can play it as a league starter, but if you put some currency into it, you can farm all content such as Shaper, Uberlab, Uber-Azir and even Uber-Elder, deathless. If you got any build related questions, feel free to ask them on GornoDD thread on the official Path of Exile forum or in the comment section of this video. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to not miss any new builds. I also started to livestream on a regular basis on Twitch. I really enjoy hanging out with the community, so if you're up to, feel free to follow me on Twitch to get notified when I'm live again. Thanks for your support. Without further ado, lean back, relax, and let's get started. So where does the damage come from? The build is tailored towards the Grelwood Shank sword. It saves you a lot of points by giving you point blank and iron reflexes. Since Juggernaut with this sword and the undeniable keystone can reach the hit cap, you don't need any accuracy or a shield like Lycoside at all. This combination also provides an enormous amount of attack speed. Since the Shank doesn't have much crit, it is perfect for going with the elemental overload keystone. The build uses Molten Strike as the main ability and can together with Xov's Blood Amulet convert 100% physical to fire. The amulet has the debuff covered in ash, which gives 20% increased fire damage and 10% fire penetration. The Tomfist Gloves boosts for another 10% with Intimidate. The Watcher's Eye Jewel adds another 25% physical as extra fire damage. The Wise Oak Flask boosts for 15% fire penetration. Vial Impurity of Fire will ignore nearby enemies' fire resistance with hits. And we get 9 additional projectiles from the sword, the helm enchant and the 2 wildfire jewels. The rest of the damage comes from the passives and different pieces of gear with smaller things like added fire damage to attacks. And where does the tankiness come from? The fact that we have so many Molten Strike projectiles also enables us to take great use of the life gain on hit mechanic that provides one of a few sources of instant leech in the game. Currently there are 3 or somewhat 4 relevant sources of this stat for non-claw builds in the game. An Elder Ring with life gain on hit with attacks, an Elder Ring with Curse Poacher's Mark on hit, a Watcher's Eye Jewel with a modified Vitality Aura, the Chief's Torment Ring, and the Viridian Jewel can hold +2 mana gained on hit, which is good enough for mana leech. A total of 20 life and 3 mana leech is enough for all content, but more life leech makes everything much smoother and I recommend at least 30 life leech for Uber Elder. I think I don't really need to explain why Juggernaut is so tanky, you just need to read his keystones and see for yourself. Juggernaut adds amazing movement speed and massive amounts of armor for physical protection. Lawweave is not only very cheap but also very powerful. Pretty much every stat on this armor is perfectly tailored towards this build. The max resists are its best selling point and add so much tankiness against elemental damage. The build holds a lot of life percentage on the passive tree and can reach up to 8 or 9k life at level 95. Our mobility skill will either be Leap Slam, Shield Charge or Whirling Blades, but that is totally up to you. The playstyle itself is pretty straightforward. Leap, charge, whirl, from pack to pack and kill everything with Molten Strike. Use flasks for additional damage and to boost your survivability. Use your mobility skill to dodge hard hits or to reposition if necessary. Try to keep up 45 for damage mitigation. Use Ancestral Protector to boost your single target damage. If you gathered enough souls, use Vial Impurity of Fire to ignore nearby enemies' fire resistance with hits, especially on bosses. Cast when damage taken support will trigger Ice Golem, Tempest Shield, Molten Shell, Enfeeble and Immortal Call, so you never have to worry about these at all. This section is describing the most optimal gear for all purposes. For the very early league, GornoDD provided a dedicated section on a written guide on the PoE forum. It explains a detailed strategy for progression, from start to high-end gear. Links are given in the description below. This build is tailored around the Grelwood Shank Eternal Sword. It provides a ton of accuracy, attack speed, armor and skills fire 2 additional projectiles if you've been hit recently. But most importantly, it offers point blank and iron reflexes. Before getting your hands on the Grelwood Shank, you should look for a decent rare one-handed sword. The lately introduced Redpick is also very interesting as a starter weapon. It is very cheap and has really good DPS. The biggest problem of course is the lack of point blank, which is a massive DPS boost. The build can have a variety of useful shields. The best one is the good old Lionized Remorse. It has some decent high armor and the highest life of any shield in the game. The Surrender is pretty much tied with Lionized Remorse in overall performance, but the build isn't the greatest blocker, so the life return bonus is nothing really special. Ant's Heritage is also worth considering if you need more damage. With almost 100% uptime on endurance charges, we have permanent onslaught. A really big upgrade to this build is a good Shaper Shield with 15% mana reservation. This allows you to use another aura for additional damage. This is not necessary to clear all content, and you will also need at least an Enlightened support level 3 to make it happen. Right now, there is only the amazing Lore Weave body armor. It is also rather easy to obtain. Trade 60 unique rings with a vendor for this chest piece. It already comes 6-socketed. This makes it a lot of fun working towards in a new league. The most important stat of course is the max resistance. This stat should be 80. All other stats can be mid-tier. Before you can get your hands on a Lore Weave, you can get any body armor with high life, resistances and stats you might need. Why not Chaos Heart? This is the first thing people bring up when the word tank build is up for debate. This build really needs gem sockets. A good rare helmet is the best overall choice here. You can either use an armor or evasion base, cause we get iron reflexes from the Grellwood Shank anyways. Devotor's Devotion is also a very nice alternative with many nice benefits. It just lacks life and good resistances, but you won't need any dexterity on a ring if you choose this. It is also often rather cheap with the enchant if you don't want to farm it yourself. The best enchant by far, Molten Strike fires 3 additional projectiles. Tom Fists are by far the best gloves for this build. The double effect of Intimidate and Maim are very useful and you should capitalize on those. They come with 1 or 2 Abyss Jewel sockets. Before you can get your hands on a pair of Tom Fists, you can take any gloves with high life, resistances and stats you might need. If you're looking for an enchant, get the Trigger Commandment of Ire when hit. This will release a lightning charged spinning copy of your weapon or its projectiles that rotates around the point, damaging enemies in an area. With its very fast attack speed, it will temporarily grant you insane additional life leech. Rare boots are the best choice here. Try to aim for high life, resistances and movement speed. If you want to enchant your boots, get damage penetrates 10% of enemy elemental resistances if you haven't killed recently. This is by far the best enchant, but you could also go with adds fire damage if you've killed recently, increase attack and cast speed if you've killed recently, or regenerate percentage of life and mana per second if you were hit recently. For the belt we got a variety of options. In general we are looking for high life, resistances, elemental damage with attack skills and stats we might need. The best one is a rare Stygian Vice belt or the Darkness Enthroned with 2 very good Abyss Jewels. Leather belts are also kinda okayish, but don't provide amazing Abyss Jewel slots. Xov's Blood is a major damage boost for this build. This is also the easiest way to reach 100% physical converted to fire damage. It also grants quite amazing amounts of life via the percentage life and percentage strength bonus. Before you can get your hands on Xov's Blood, you can use any rare amulet with high life, resistances and damage modifiers such as elemental damage with attack skills, flat physical or fire damage, increased attack speed and increased fire damage. Rings can be a bit tricky. You should opt for getting about 20 to 40 life gain on hit from both rings combined. Getting 3 mana gain on hit also funds your entire mana needs for spamming skills, but this can be achieved better by getting Viridian Jewels. Other than that, you should look for life, resistances and other useful damage mods. Good mods to look for are elemental damage with attack skills, increased projectile damage, added physical or fire damage, increased attack speed and increased fire damage. Leech rings are often kinda costly early league. And I'm not gonna lie, everything before getting some solid ones feels really medicore. A good alternative is the Thief's Torment ring. It can also be a bit costly, but it's worth the investment. In our body armor we will socket Molten Strike, Multi-Strike support, elemental damage with attack support, elemental focus support and fire penetration support or ancestral call support for our base 5 link, and concentrated effect support or increased area of effect support to complete our 6 link. This is our Molten Strike setup. For bosses use fire penetration support and concentrated effect support, and for mapping use ancestral call support combined with increased area of effect support. Our first 4 link setup will contain Leap Slam, Shield Charge or Whirling Blades, faster attack support, Fortify support and Blood Magic support. You can pretty much choose whatever movement skill you like best. Blood Magic is great for no regen maps. Fortify procs best of Leap Slam and Shield Charge. I personally prefer Leap Slam in this build. Our second 4 link setup contains Immortal Call, Molten Shell, Summon Ice Golem and Cast when damage taken support. I chose to use a level 20 Immortal Call to lengthen the time we benefit from the flat physical damage reduction coming from the endurance charges. The setup is also for the Lazy Golem summoning and Molten Shell. I would not miss the 1500 additional physical damage reduction coming from the shell. Our first 3 link setup contains Tempest Shield level 7, Enfeeble level 5 or Warlord's Mark level 5 and Cast when damage taken support level 1. Cast when damage taken support needs to be level 1 to be triggered as often as possible. The Tempest Shield adds another 3% block chance and lashes out every time we block something. This greatly helps proccing our elemental overload. I also choose Enfeeble as our curse. This build doesn't greatly benefit of any curses. You can also use Warlord's Mark or even Poacher's Mark depending on what kind of leech you want. Our second 3 link setup contains Val Impurity of Fire, Blood Rage and increased duration support. Blood Rage is a great tool to boost our clear speed. On bosses like Uber Elder you can even sustain the frenzy charges because of the many small monsters spawning. The degeneration effect is entirely compensated by the super solid life regeneration the build has. Level it as high as your dexterity allows. The Incursion patch brings us the new Vaal Impurity of Fire, which is a pretty amazing damage boost while active, about 40% more damage against the big bosses. However, it should be not paired with fire penetration support linked to the main Molten Strike attack. This has the biggest effect when combined with Ancestral Call support, since it's the main alternative to fire penetration support in this build. When everything is said and done, we will have some free gem slots in our gear. Fill them up with Anger, Herald of Ash and Ancestral Protector. The Totem Body will greatly boost our attack speed and does some good damage himself. If you're using Tom Fists with 2 Abyssal sockets, you will need one more gem slot. You can either remove the increased duration support of the Vaal Impurity of Fire setup, or get a nice unset ring to fill up your needs. Two Wildfire Jewels are the first thing you want to look out for. They provide a huge damage and clearing bonus, and one can be obtained early in Act 6 by finishing a quest. The first one will be socketed above the Marauder starting area, the second one right above Devotion. A Watcher's Eye Jewel is a very good damage boost for most builds at the moment. The best stats are physical damage added as extra fire damage and fire penetration. Most of my other jewels aim for the usual stats. The most important one is always life. I also tend to fix my resistances with these. Try to get 1 or 2 jewels with mana gained on hit to sustain your mana. I'd suggest taking 3 to 4 mana gained on hit to never worry about empty mana again. For damage mods, look out for all kinds of attack speed and increased physical damage. For Abyss Jewel modifiers, look for flat physical and fire damage. Increased attack speed, onslaught on kill, and a chance to blind is always nice to have. My everyday flask setup contains a Basalt Flask for some even further physical damage mitigation is a good choice. A Silver Flask is not the greatest thing for this build, but it's a decent damage boost while also providing utility like movement speed. One Life Flask should be okay, even in an 8k plus life Juggernaut build for an unexpected heavy hit or those oh snap situations. Try to get the following suffixes on your magic flasks: of Staunching for bleed immunity, of Adrenaline to speed things up, and of Iron Skin for additional armor. A small side tip, always aim for enough reduced flask charges used on craftable flasks to make sure you get additional uses out of them. This build sadly doesn't have many good unique flasks. Rumi's Concoction is very good for the block and spell block when timed correctly. The Wise Oak is an absolute must-have for this build. The 15% penetration is active while your fire resistance is the highest. To balance your Wise Oak flask, your uncapped resistances must be the same amount to get full functionality out of it. That means that all offensive and defensive buffs are active at the same time. Especially on Uber Elder, receiving 10% less cold damage is amazingly good. Dying Sun is something I'm not a huge fan of myself for this build, but it provides a small damage boost and some additional clear speed. A detailed skill tree plan, leveling advices and gear choices while leveling are listed in GornoDD thread on the official Path of Exile forum. Links are given in the description below. As our Ascendancy points we're gonna take Undeniable for insane amounts of accuracy, attack speed and damage, Unstoppable for increased movement speed, stun immunity and slow reduction, Unflinching for 1 additional endurance charge and to generate the charges itself, and Unbreakable for life regeneration, damage reduction and armor. Always get the maximum out of your Pantheon powers by upgrading them. This is not mandatory but always nice to have. Our basic Pantheon setup contains Soul of Arakalia, our major god, for reduced damage taken from damage over time and a chance to avoid lightning damage. And Soul of Ralakesh as our minor god for a chance to avoid bleeding and reduced physical damage taken over time while moving. For Hall of Grandmasters, get Soul of Shakari as our minor god for reduced chaos damage taken. For Uber Elder, get an upgraded Soul of Yugula as our minor god for 5% reduced cold damage taken if you've been hit recently. Choose to help the Bandit Lord Oak for 1% life regenerated per second, 2% additional physical damage reduction and 20% increased physical damage. If you leveled your character to level 95 or above, sell 20 Orbs of Regret and an Onyx Amulet to a vendor to receive the Book of Reform. With this book you can change your bandit decision from any Bandit Lord to Aramir's Favor, which gives 2 additional skill points. A special thanks to GornoDD for creating the guide and providing me with the footage for our project. If you want to see more gameplay footage of this build, check out his channel. Links are given in the description below. Thanks for watching my video. I would greatly appreciate your support with a simple like on this video, your thoughts and feelings about the content itself in a comment. On top of that, subscribe to my YouTube channel if you want to see more videos from me in the future. It is totally free, so become a part of our great community. Take care and have a great day.
Exile, do something!